Want to teach your parrot how to talk? Stick around for my tips and tricks. We all love hearing parrots talk. It's so funny to hear them say different things, try and use them in context sometimes as well, and just pick up on the most random of phrases. So that's probably why you're watching this video today. You want to teach your bird how to talk. Hi guys, I'm Sophie. I'm a certified professional bird trainer and I've taught my flock of birds to say a variety of words. But before we get started, I do want to bring out a point that some people might not like to hear, and that is that I highly advise not getting a parrot just because you want them to talk, because the reality is that not every parrot is going to be an amazing talker. In fact, some birds may never pick up on any words at all, and you know what? That's completely fine. The possibility of your bird talking can be a reason to get a bird, but if that's the sole reason or the main reason, I would highly advise reconsidering, because I recommend getting a bird because you love birds and you want to deal with that chaotic lifestyle and you are willing to accept them whether or not they are going to learn to talk. In my flock of birds, our crimson bellies are the best talkers, and again, please don't get a crimson belly. I've got a whole variety of videos on why not to do that. But crimson bellies can be good talkers, and Charlie just doesn't stop talking. He knows so many different phrases. Kipling as well is always talking. Then we've got our green cheeks, and there's a bit of a mixture there about who can say what. For example, Louis can say a variety of words. So let's go through. So Charlie can say I love you, Charlie good boy, Bububs, all different kinds of, he just says so many things. I should really make a list. Kipling says Kipling, Louis, come on. He tells me to come on all the time, which is really funny. Louis also says come on. He says Louis and Kipling. Scampi says Scampi and Scampi do. That's it. Pickles says Pickles and Pickles pee. That's it. Olive says hey, hello, and what and what's to kind of get our attention. And then Fish, he says fish, and he says Alexa. As I said, Charlie says loads of other words. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what he says, but he just does not stop talking, and he picks up on lots of different things. So that's really fun. Some other birds may learn loads of words, phrases, different kinds of things. You've probably seen them all over social media. But as I said, there are going to be some birds who just don't pick up on any words at all, or maybe they just learn to whistle or something like that. And you know what? That's completely fine, because we love them for who they are. Scampi, Scampi, Scampi. Another thing you may not have considered is that parrots are noisy a lot of the time, whether that's just background noise or, you know, screaming or talking, whatever it may be. And actually you may teach your bird to talk and they won't stop talking all day long, and it might drive you crazy. So bear that in mind as well. And they don't really have a mute button. We can distract them and keep them busy and keep that beak active and quiet, but generally speaking they are one of the loudest pets you could possibly get. So bear that in mind. It's not just the fun talking, you get all different kinds of things with that as well. Whilst you may be trying to teach your bird to say one thing like hello or I love you, it's entirely possible they might pick up on something else you're not trying to train them to say. So watch your language around your birds and bear in mind that they can pick up pretty much any phrase you say, especially if you're saying it in quite an emotional state of being. So sometimes parrots do pick up on phrases or words that we may not want them to say. So just think about that when you are speaking around your bird.
Go to bed. What do you mean no?
And before we get into how to actually train your bird to talk, again, I wanted to mention that some species are better talkers than others, but that shouldn't be your deciding factor when getting a bird. For example, typically African greys can be considered one of the better talking species, but that also comes with loads and loads of feather dust. They're one of the dustiest species that you can get. So again, there are a lot of things to consider. Don't just get a bird because you've seen it on social media chatting away and think, oh, I want one of those, that'd be fun, because there's a lot more to it. Same with Amazons, you know, they can be really great talkers, but there's just so much more to the individual species that you need to consider. But now we've gone through all of that business, let's talk about how you actually train your bird to talk. Now, the most common way to teach your bird to talk is essentially just to keep repeating phrases to them. It sounds simple enough, but it can take a little while. Birds don't always pick up on different phrases as quickly as others, so it's a case of repetition. So every time you go and see your bird, you can say hello, you can say their name, you can, you know, just keep chatting to them all day long. I mean, I basically talk to the birds all day long, and I'll be chatting away and David will be like, what did you say? And I'll be like, shh, I'm talking to the birds. So that is something to bear in mind, that if you want your bird to talk, the easiest way to start that process is just to start talking to them and just repeat phrases over and over again. And it may feel silly to do, to keep saying the same thing over and over again, but they are you know, very smart, and they'll be thinking about what you're saying to them. If your parrot makes any kind of noise that you would like to hear more of, or they make a noise that sounds kind of like the word that you're asking them to say, or the phrase, definitely give them some reinforcement, whether that's verbal praise or treats or whatever it is that they find reinforcing, so that they know that that's what they need to do more of. That is one of the ways to start training your bird to talk, because they're not just going to one day say hello, or some birds will, but most parrots won't. Sometimes they may just have a bit of kind of a baby babbling stage where they're learning how to say different things, because again, they don't necessarily know what they're saying. They don't talk in the same way that we do. They're just you know, repeating some of the things that they've heard in the environment. And you may have also experienced your birds mimicking things in the environment anyway. Some birds can do like the telephone ringing or the fire alarm or whatever it may be.
Are you a good boy?
Many parrots learn how to talk when they're in quite a heightened or overexcited state. Now, you can use this to your advantage in part of your training, but it is very important to not cross the line over to overstimulation, because that often leads to undesirable behaviours, often biting, because they get so worked up and they just release it in one of the ways that they know how, which is biting. So whilst you can use a bit of an excited play session to try and train some words and use that kind of slight different mood change to speed up your progress of training, also bear in mind as well that some birds will use a lot of talking as what we call precursor to aggression or aggressive behaviour, as we would label it, or biting. So you may have your bird sat there and they're chatting away to you and you think it's hilarious, you know, they're chatting away, chat, and all of a sudden you get bitten. You think, whoa, that came out of nowhere. But actually they're in this really overexcited state and they just start talking away. Their eyes might be pinning as well. Maybe their feather position has changed. We're only paying attention to the fact that they're talking and not their overall behaviour, and then you get bitten. So that is something to bear in mind too, that actually sometimes talking can be a sign of a very, very overexcited bird, and we need to manage those mood levels to make sure that they are not getting too excited. There are also some birds who are really adorable and they're quite shy to talk, and they will prefer to talk when they think nobody's watching. So that might be when they're having some in-cage time, or you go out of the room and they'll start whispering to themselves or start chatting to themselves, and you run in and be like, wow, that's awesome. And they're like, wasn't me, I didn't do it. So sometimes birds will prefer to practice and learn things and babble and that kind of stuff when they are kind of on their own, and that's fine. And you can try and praise them and run in and stuff and make a big fuss, but don't be surprised if that's the way that your bird prefers to learn. Similarly with this, you can use a training technique called capturing. So if your bird is just sat there doing their own thing and all of a sudden they say hello, great, give them a treat immediately. Of course, try and time your reinforcement so you're not accidentally reinforcing something else, but if you can give them a treat if they just sporadically say something, again, they're more likely to do it. And I will be honest that actually training your bird to talk is some of the harder things that you can do with your bird, because it does take a bit of time. It's not quite like training them to spin or things like that, which is quite an obvious motion and successive approximations of shaping a behaviour. To actually get your bird to physically make sounds in the way that you want them to can take some time, so don't be disheartened if your bird does take a little bit of time to pick up on different words and phrases, or as I said, if they never do. Scampi. I know that I'm going to get questions in the comments saying my bird is X amount of years or months old or however it may be, can they still learn to talk? Absolutely they can. Is it easier for a younger bird to pick up on phrases? Yes, that is true. Does that mean that an older bird can't pick up on phrases? No, of course not. My birds are picking up on phrases throughout their lives, and they are not, you know, young baby birds. They are, you know, 5 and 6 years old. So they're still picking up phrases even now. So again, have this as part of your journey. Don't have it as the main thing that you're focusing on. Just kind of work around it and just add it into your training routine. Keep repeating phrases to them. Talk to them anyway because they enjoy it and it's part of your bonding process. But I do have a video about how an old bird can learn new tricks. And you know, it's just one of those things that they may pick up as they get older. I would love to know down in the comments what your bird says, if they say anything. I think it's really funny to hear some of the cheeky things that they pick up when we are training them to talk. I hope you found this video useful. Take care and I'll see you in the next one.